5 years ago, the only place you'd find a cupcake was at a kid's birthday party. And now, there's a cupcake store in every corner. And it's getting harder and harder to come up with something original. And since I'm all about the surreal presentation, and by that I mean taking one set of ingredients but presenting them to look like something completely different, I decided to channel my love of cupcakes through a savory interpretation of this classic dessert. I make a really wide variety of savory cupcakes and I serve them up all over the world. In fact, they're really my go-to recipe for a lot of the big events that I do. But I want to begin with the recipe that started it all for me, and that's my salmon cupcake. In front of me, I have all the ingredients that you would find in a traditional salmon cake. You know, the kind you order in a restaurant that would be brought to you and it would look something like this. I want to show you how you can take these very same ingredients and with just a little extra effort, turn it into a dish that really has some wow factor. We're going to start with a pound of skinless salmon filet, and I'm going to rough chop this. Don't have to be too careful because it's all going to get chopped up in the food processor. And to the salmon, I'm going to add some Italian parsley for some brightness, a couple of green onions, a jalapeno pepper for some heat, a couple of cloves of garlic for some zing, a little bit of red bell pepper, and this is really just for color. I'm going to take a lemon and I'm going to start by zesting it. And you know what I love about lemon zest? It's totally free. Because after you've used the lemon zest, you still have what you paid for, which is the lemon juice. You know when you taste a really great fish cake, it has that nice unctuous texture in the mouth. And that comes from sour cream. So we're going to add a nice dollop of sour cream to this. To bind this all together so that it holds together, I'm going to add 1 egg, some breadcrumbs, or some panko. Lastly, season this up, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. Pulse the salmon a few times, and you can see here that you've still got big chunks of salmon, but everything else is sort of nicely integrated. Now, we're going to transfer all this to a cupcake tin. All right, now you want to top these up just a little bit above the level of the liner, because even though there's egg in this, it's not really going to rise at all when it bakes. Like this, in the oven at 400 degrees for about 8 minutes. So while the salmon cupcakes are baking, I'm going to take a whole whack of fresh dill and I'm going to chop it up. Now, in case you're not familiar with the term whack of dill, it's a very precise measurement, somewhere between a handful and a bunch. This is a bowl of mashed potatoes. I'm adding this dill. I'm just mixing it all together. Now, to get the real production value in the presentation of these cupcakes, you need something like this. This is a piping bag with a star tip. Get it in any baking store. It'll set you back about, the tip will be about $3, and a bag like that's a nickel, or a cloth bag's a couple of dollars. Not very expensive at all. And wait till you see what they do for you. That's what I call a salmon cupcake. Of all the savory cupcakes in my repertoire, my lamb cupcakes are definitely the ones I'm the proudest of, and that's because the flavor is just so intense. The recipe follows the exact same format as the salmon cupcakes, and I'm not going to lie to you, it takes a lot longer to make. And the reason for that is that every step of the process, I'm just adding big flavor. So to start with, you braise a couple of lamb shanks in some chicken stock and some red wine. And then when the shanks are done, when the meat is fall off the bone tender, you strain off what's left of the reduced braising juices, and you reduce them even further until you've created what is essentially a lamb demi-glaze. Now this is so intense, and when I mix this in with the meat, it is incredible. The next step is to take a big onion, maybe a head of garlic, chop it all up, and saute it with a little bit of butter and olive oil until it's browned to within an inch of its life. You take the lamb shank and you pull the meat off the bone and separate the fat and the gristle from the really good stuff. So all that's left to do, as we say in the TV business, stump and stir. I'm going to add in a few tablespoons of this beautiful demi-glaze, about the same amount of this really intense onion and garlic, some rosemary, a little bit of salt, some pepper. To hold this all together is add some breadcrumbs and 1 beaten egg. Stir this all together into our cupcake liners. And these will take about 10 minutes to set in a 400-degree oven. For the icing on this lamb cupcake, I've got a whole new trick for you. This is a roasted beet. Watch what happens when I take a rasp and I grate about 2 tablespoons of this beet, and then I add it to the mashed potatoes. Just watch this bowl. In less than 5 seconds, we now have fuchsia pink mashed potatoes. And as they say, this is the icing on the cake. As a bonus, I want to leave you with one last idea, and this is really more of a concept than a recipe. You start by making your favorite meatloaf recipe. You just bake it in a cupcake tin, take your basic mashed potatoes, ice it, and this will turn any Sunday dinner into something just a little extra special. If you want to get really fancy, the next time you're at an Indian restaurant, get some of that candied fennel they give you on the way out. Look at that. Why settle for an old trend when you can create a new one by yourself? Now you can find all these recipes, plus all sorts of other creative presentation ideas in my new cookbook, Glutton for Pleasure.